Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the show. That's multiple salutes for you. Tell you what, let's kick it off with a little music. All right, we are live. Hello, hello to all of you out there. One salute for you, two salutes for you. Yes, you get a double salute. My name is Chris. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. That is a weekly live show where we're all getting to talk in the chat room about the latest comic books and the latest comic book news, some of which you may be able to guess at from my incredible thumbnails that give you a very accurate look at how I'm reacting to the news. Because what I do is I always have my camera held anytime I read comic book news. And if it surprises or grosses me out or gives me any kind of extreme reaction, I make sure to capture that for you. I want to make sure that that's accurate. Let's throw some shout outs on the screen for people that are showing up right at the beginning. Hello to Johnny Slider and Marco Sharpo, Archmage Frey. Yup, I'm just making sure I'm reading this right. Andrew Barb, I'm guessing at that one. I think I got it right, though. Dr. Shubil says double salute. I love it. Cock Troop, exactly right. Let's get this party started. Yes, quite the party, as long as you remember to bring your own cake. Hello to, look at how many people are here. Jason Little, Art of Saw, 57 Sandor, all sorts of great people, jumping all around. It's going by too fast for me to keep up with. But thank you all for joining me. This is going to be a fun show. We're gonna talk about some cool comics that came out this week, no question. I'll try to go through that kind of briefly, just give you high level thoughts on some of the latest comics. Boy, some of the comic book news this week is a little bit dark, but we'll try our best to have fun. And if you manage to stay to the end, there's a chance that we may have something to give away. I don't know. Who knows, you know? But if we did, theoretically, it would be to help promote the fact that we've got 8 days left now for this. This is my Indiegogo campaign through Dynamite Comics. I got to illustrate a cover for Vampirella. It is only available at that link in the description below as well if you're watching this on YouTube. And yeah, 8 days left if you want to help support me or just basically get a cool comic book with a unique cover. There's also some interesting add-ons from both Dynamite and myself. I hope you'll consider checking that out. Time is running out. This is the only place to get it, just to be clear. But appreciate your consideration there. And as long as I'm mentioning this, let me just say thank you to a bunch of people that have helped me promote it. On the Sage Nerd, I appreciate that. I'm probably going to be on Comic Pop this week with Sal. That's the plan. Yesterday, Mr. Sunday Movies, or sorry, well, technically the Weekly Planet podcast shouted me out, and that's a big show. I really appreciate the help there. Lots of great creators have gone ahead and retweeted the link to that campaign. Some really kind folks: Tony Moore, Scott Snyder, Tom King, Daniel Warren Johnson, a bunch of you that watch this show regularly. I really appreciate it. The Pickle Hater says it bagged and boarded. I mean, it's shipped carefully. I don't know if it comes with a bag and board per se. It definitely is shipped carefully in I'm pretty sure Gem Mint mailers. There is one option to get one that's actually slabbed and graded that a couple people have selected. That's not something I know a whole lot about, to be honest, like graded comics. It's just nothing that I've ever gotten too deep into understanding, but there are options for things like that's nice of you to say, JR Films. I'm doing okay. I'm Mm. I'm dealing with a little bit of a health scare, but I don't have the full details yet, so I won't go into it. Um, I haven't really had a chance to talk to my sister who's live in chat about it, so I'm not going to get into details, but I am having a health scare, and I need to see my doctor and learn a little bit more. But I'm a little nervous, so you know, uh, show wise, things are going great. Thanks to all of you. Work wise, I'm selling plenty of cars, making some really healthy connections with people there. My friends seem to be doing well. I hope I'm doing well. We'll see. Okay. I'm glad that Dad told you. I don't know anything yet, Gene. That's why I hadn't. I've been trying to reach out to you, but I'm glad to have you here. It's really nice to have my sister here. We'll get past that. We'll get past that and tell you what, because I want to give you guys a good show. So let's start out that good show with a look at some of the latest comic books. And this is the only Marvel comic I picked up this week, but boy, is it a good one, folks. Fantastic Four, written by Ryan North. And this is a great jumping on point if you haven't read Fantastic Four in a while or have never read Fantastic Four. What it does that's special, it emphasizes two aspects that I think are important to Fantastic Four. One, that they're a family. Two, that they're scientist explorers. Tell you what, let me just acknowledge this because look at this. Is there another way to get the add-ons? I was one of the people that didn't get the option for them at checkout. Hope your health is okay. I recently had a health scare myself. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Dr. Shubil. I'm definitely sending you good thoughts. Appreciate that you're almost always here. It's really, really awesome. I don't have another way to order the add-ons right now. I'll look into options for the future. I don't have like my own fulfillment house or anything like that. Dynamite is running this campaign, and that's why we were able to add them. There might be a way to cancel your previous order and start a new one that allows you to add the add-ons. That might be an option. But you should probably just ask the campaign itself because somebody at Dynamite is running that. I'm not the good question. Yes. Okay. Somebody else has an opinion here on Fantastic Four. Evan says that it's been excellent, probably the best official run since Hickman. Yeah, that makes sense. For a minute, I thought you were saying like that was the best run, and this is maybe second best. But it's very good. It's very good. It makes these characters really likable. They're doing family stuff, like just having lunch together, going on a trip together. In this one, it doesn't really matter who the villain is. It's a pretty D-level, pretty obscure villain that does something to them. But what matters is that Reed Richards uses his big brain to figure out like how they have to change something that was done to them on an atomic level. They were fundamentally altered in such a way that they are now literally incompatible with their own universe, as in they can't eat food and digest it. They have been fundamentally like altered in like sort of mirrored on a DNA level. They've been mirrored, and so they're still themselves and everything, but they can't eat, and so they've got to solve this problem ASAP. And to do that, they go into like this magical realm, and Reed stretches himself to his fullest extent. I'll stop there, but it makes sense within comic book science logic. It was a blast. It's really, really fun because they're using their powers in new ways, and they're a family. So that's really, really fun. Right. Yes. Chemdog explains the villain is Agatha Harkness's son, Nicholas Scratch. Pretty obscure. You might know Agatha Harkness these days because she was on WandaVision, and she's been in like Avengers and Fantastic Four comics. She's been in the Marvel universe for a long time. Yes, Kyle, I did. I mentioned that at the top of the show. Those guys have always been kind to me. In the same episode, Mr. Sunday Movies plugged Comic Pop, and NerdSync. So they've got a really big audience. It's like their YouTube channel is over 1 million subscribers. So the fact that those two guys are willing to mention comic tubers that relative to them are pretty small potatoes, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Oh, wow. That's exciting. Thank you so much for your support, Archmage. I really appreciate that. Let's see. And Jackie F says, if you're a fan of this run, and I am, I'd recommend Ryan North's book, How to Take Over the World, that came out last year. Okay, I'll keep that in mind because I definitely have not read that. Okay. Let me see if turning on this light, it's a little bright on me, but I think it'll make the comic look a little better for you guys there. There's things that I like about this book and things that I don't love about this book. I'll try to keep it brief. Mark Silvestri is writing and drawing a story where Batman has to team up with the Joker to go after a criminal. Like, they both have knowledge about it. Look, the art is great. Mark Silvestri, if anything, has continued to evolve a bit since his days in the 90s, when I always thought he was arguably the overall strongest of the Image founders. I would sincerely be willing to argue that Mark Silvestri had the best overall fundamentals of everybody. And I'm a big fan of guys like Lee and McFarlane and definitely listen. But I think that Silvestri is like really talented. But there's a couple things keeping me from enjoying this on like a super high level. One, I don't think it feels completely necessary for Joker to be tagging along. And that's a big hurdle to get past, since that's the premise here. They both have personal ties to the ongoing mystery, but it doesn't feel like it's important enough that Batman would be willing to risk keeping Joker with him. Now, they have a great dynamic, so you're sort of willing to overlook it a little, but it just doesn't feel completely necessary. There's a few moments of like exposition dumps here. Mostly it flows at a pretty good pace. But here's the last thing I'm going to mention that, like, I just have to say, the black and white pages that they share with us at the back of each of these issues, these are fully inked pages by Mark Silvestri. I think that these read a lot more clearly than the colored version. No offense to colorist Arif Prianto. No offense, because I don't think he's doing anything bad. I really don't. I'm just trying to find it. So there's like the color page, right? And there's the black and white page. And I just feel that the black and white is reading a lot more cleanly. And that's not even the best example. Like some of these, like in the Batcave, it's very dark. And I don't know how you get around that when you're coloring. I don't think that the colors are meant to obscure the art. I just sincerely... Okay, here's one that I want to try to compare, okay? It's like a cathedral that's underground in some abandoned tunnels. So there we go. And look, when you look at this establishing shot, nice light source there that gives us almost an orangey blue contrast. That's fair. I can read that there's lots of figures here and everything, and that they're in a cathedral. I can definitely read that. But when I look at this, look at how much more detail you honestly see to the, like just in terms of rendering texture and stuff like that. And maybe I'm the only one. I just look at this and I feel that the black and white looks a little cooler to me, but maybe I'm unique there. I know a lot of people love color. Anyway, we'll move on. This has been a fun series. Chip Zdarsky right now, I think that it's a fill-in artist of Mike Hawthorne, but it's very good. Bruce Wayne Batman is in a parallel world where there has been no Batman, and the villains have thrived and are very, very different. We've got a Selena Kyle who works for this guy, like Red, what is it? It's Red something. Red, it's not Red Hood, is it? Is it Red? Oh, shoot, I forget. That's not good. That's not good, is it, if you can't remember the main villain's name? Hey, look at that. It's Shane. He's the owner of the comic store that I go to most frequently down in Tacoma, Washington, Atomic Comics. Always great to have you here, Shane. Just going through some of the comics that we've read this week. Red Mask. Thank you. A bunch of people pointed it out. I was like, it's not Red Hood, but it's similar to that. Thank you, everyone that's correcting me on that. It's not great that I can't remember him. Not great. A lot of people saying Red Mask. Okay. One interesting thing, and it's only shown like briefly here, he seems to have super speed powers. Is that going to connect him in some way to the Flash? I really don't know. There's no indication that something about the Flash or the Speed Force should be connected to this story, but that's obviously some form of super speed with like red lightning. It's just that we already have a super speedster evil Batman in Red Death. So I don't know why they'd sort of create maybe another similar version of it. But I do like this. It's got Bruce Wayne meeting this world's version of Alfred Pennyworth, and they have both lost the other person in that relationship. Like Alfred's gone in the regular continuity, and in this world, Bruce Wayne is dead. To have them reconnect actually feels pretty emotional. You've got like a Harvey Dent that's running on, what do you call it, Venom. So he's almost like Bane, but he's also sort of like Judge Dredd in that he's, like a judge, jury, executioner. It's cool. And there's a great backup story here where the Tim Drake version of Robin is going into yet another parallel world to try to find the technology that was used to shift Bruce Wayne into another dimension. And so that's a good ongoing backup that runs a parallel story. It's very, very good. Red shopping bag. Yes. Red Foreman. It's a different universe, so it could be a variant of Red Death. It probably is my best guess. Yeah, the Riddler in this is a creep, and it's good. So anyway, it's a fun comic. This one I'm having a blast with. Tom Taylor continues to write the John Kent Superman. This is like technically sort of a reboot because now it's issue 1 of Adventures of Superman. But it builds on what we know before, and yet it's a good jumping on point for new readers. And essentially what we've got is there's Ultraman. All right. He's been known as an evil parallel universe version of Superman. We might be using the multiverse too much these days. We just might. Ultraman is going from world to world killing Superman. Ultraman also, in continuity, you don't need to have read those stories, but what he did is he kidnapped John Kent when John was young and kept him in another world where he aged up. So he lost a lot of years growing up with his parents, Lois Lane and Clark Kent. Anyway, this is setting up that Ultraman is going from universe to universe, killing people, and he's going to be coming for John Kent. John Kent is going to have to face the guy that traumatized him. And there's a hint that he's going to be getting new powers because he starts to feel this electric surge, and this cover hints at it even more. It seems like they're setting him up to get Superman's electric blue superpowers. You guys are all hung up on making red jokes. But anyway, I like it. I like it quite a bit. He's going to go into parallel worlds, including Injustice, like the video game worlds, which Tom Taylor wrote the comics on for several years. So that'll be cool to see again. Here's an indie book that you might not have heard of, but hopefully you have. Comes through Ahoy Comics, an up-and-coming publisher. This is issue 1 of The Gimmick, and it's written by Joanne Sterer. She has written and edited comics for quite a while now, but she also used to run a small wrestling promotion. So she is combining those to write this story called The Gimmick. Cover here by Kerry Randolph, great guy. Interiors by artist Elena Gogo, and I'm just guessing at the pronunciation there. So it takes place in the world of professional wrestling, but the main character, unbeknownst to just about everybody, actually has super strength, and he accidentally kills somebody in the ring. That sets off the story where he goes across the border to Mexico on the run. His mother is like super overly protective of him. She's trying to reconnect with him. There's he's got this mentor who's been in the wrestling industry forever. He goes on the run with him, tries to give him advice on how to like make money. He basically has him get back into wrestling, but in a mask. There's some quirky FBI agents hunting him down. There's the daughter, the estranged daughter of the guy that was killed. Really interesting characters. The people at the old wrestling promotion. There's this woman who definitely had like a child with the main character, and she, now that she's heard this news, is going to find him. So anyway, and it ends with that estranged daughter who supposedly hated her now dead father, down in Mexico at this wrestling hall with a gun. I don't know where it'll go from here. A lot of crazy, interesting characters. It could go in so many directions, and it feels really authentic to pro wrestling. I think it's a just great book. If he accidentally killed somebody, he shouldn't go back in the ring. Fair, but he has been in the industry for like about a decade, and he's kept it under control. Like basically, a guy really pushed him over the edge, and he messed up once, but normally he can control himself. Let's see. I'm glad I just read Do a Powerbomb. I'll pick this up. Yeah, it's really fun. This is just sort of like a good drama with a little bit of like superhero stuff in the background. I wouldn't call myself a massive pro wrestling fan, but I definitely have been. I love it. Let's see. Philip Johnson asks if I have a P.O. box. It's in the description of this episode. It's at the bottom of the description if you want to send anything. Yeah, good. Good luck, seeking it out. Obviously, you're probably going to have to ask a comic shop to order it or go online, but it's called The Gimmick from Ahoy Comics, writer Joanne Sterer, and she's obviously writing from an authentic point of view. Yes, exactly. Eddie Kingston has said multiple times that he watches my show, The King. That's pretty awesome. I'm very, very flattered. He's amazing. He's fantastic. Last one I'll mention this week is Clear. This is one of the books that Scott Snyder did through Comixology. And I love that Dark Horse is getting into this sort of field of being the print distributor of various online comics. They're doing that with all sorts of different publishers. This is a sci-fi book, art by Francis Monopole. And it's not too far in the future, though. 2052. A little bit Blade-esque, but the basic gist of the premise here is that everybody in the world now wears what are called veils. It's a neurosensory experience where you can see the world however you want to see it. You want to see it like you live in Pirates of the Caribbean? Cool. Star Wars, Old Western, pornography, whatever it might be, you can see the world your way. And this main character is a detective who prefers to see the world clearly. He's one of the rare cases where he does not like to wear a filter. And it slowly gives us backstory of all sorts of characters that have it in for him. His ex-wife has killed herself, or has she? That's the mystery he has to investigate. And it also gives us some backstory on how the world got to be this version of the world, like this technology and stuff. Basically, China essentially beat us. So like you get a bunch of interesting backstory of like the military, like, I don't know, 40 years ago, 20 years ago. I forget exactly, but it's good. Art's good. Premise is interesting. I'm curious to see where this goes. Clear. That clear is the phrase for when you don't have a neurofilter. You're said to be clear, but very, very few people do that. Andrew, I said it right the first time. Andrew Barb said that adding it to the poll list. Good. I could have sworn there's a TV or game with a similar premise. I don't think there's one with like a premise of going around in filters. I think everything else is sort of a world of virtual reality. I don't know. Looks really interesting. Black Mirror vibes. It does feel like something that could have been a story in Black Mirror, just to be clear. It really does, but I would say that that's good. Kyle says, I read the first 2 issues on Comixology. It's interesting, but isn't for me. Well, I'll read the second issue before I decide. For now, I like the premise and the art. Am I hooked the same way I have been with some of Scott Snyder's other projects? I couldn't honestly say that. For instance, I really like Noctera a lot, and I really liked the book of the female firefighters doing the heist in the middle of a fire. That one was great. This one hasn't hooked me quite the same way, but I'm going to give it a shot because Scott Snyder has usually impressed me quite a bit. But that's everything I read this week. I'll just show you a butt that I drew. Let me add to the stream some news. Oh, okay. My filter would be, what if comic shops dominated the shop market? There you go. That would be fun. That would be fun. Sounds vaguely like that Black Mirror mixed with one episode of Sliders. Sure, I remember that. I read a story where you could delete people from your visual and auditory fields. Yeah, that was in Black Mirror, just to be clear. That was they definitely did a story like that. It was horrific. The clear design looks a lot like pink lemonade. That sounds good. I must have almost a full minute delay, I'm realizing, like as I see sort of your responses to what I'm talking about. So if there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect, it seems like there's something like around a 45-second or so delay from me being live to like what you folks are seeing. I want to live in a Simpsons filter world. Well, you definitely could. Doesn't necessarily mean the jokes would be there. And then the one thing that is interesting is some of this technology has been thought through a little in storytelling terms. The older something is, the more trouble the veil has putting a filter over it. So like, for instance, if you came across a really, really old tree, it wouldn't really have a way to show that to you in a different way. It's so old that it doesn't have enough reference to update it. But anyway. So, oh yeah, okay. So there's my cover again. 8 days, but let's move on to the first piece of news. And this one is wild, folks. This one is wild. Just to be clear, this is not about a manga that just came out, but what did just come out is this YouTuber here is Sid Snap, and they did an episode about this manga, which is not an easy one to find. So online, and it's getting a lot of shocked responses because this is a comic that tells the actual true story of a cannibal. Yes. And it gets worse from there. This man that you see on the right, his name is Issei Sagawa. And he came from a very wealthy family, went to get a PhD in art, studied at the Sorbonne in France, and I might be mispronouncing that, but hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. The Sorbonne? I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's a prestigious place to go. So he was there in France, and in 1982, he invited a fellow student, a Dutch woman named Renee Hartevelt, to his apartment, where he killed her, he ate her, I'll just try to keep it light. He assaulted the body. And then what? Then he was extradited to Japan to serve his sentence there. He was sort of in jail for like 2 years while the trial went on. But once the trial like basically happened, there were some sort of technicalities. He was allowed to go free. He did not serve time for his crimes. He did not have to pay restitution or anything. And he was allowed to make a story detailing what actually happened and profit off of it. Obviously, this is pretty scary. Yes, Gozu said, I think he recently died. You are correct. He passed away from pneumonia in November of this past year. 2022. So, not wonderful. Not wonderful. If you're into true crime, obviously it's a fascinating story on that level. But there's no good closure here where somebody gets their comeuppance. There's nobody getting punished for what they did. And yeah, it's scary. He was literally allowed to profit off of it. And I decided not to really show any of the images of the book in this news. There's a small panel that I put in like the thumbnail that wasn't too bad. The art, first of all, is not very good, especially for somebody that went to the Sorbonne. Yeah, it's very scary. It's very lovely to have you here, Andy. The art, I would say, is not very good. The only reason to read it would be like, wow, the fact that you can read a book from somebody who is clearly mentally disturbed. And I can understand the artistic value there. I don't know if it's something I would ever want to read. I really don't. I at this point, I don't want to. I'm a little curious to know more about the story, but I don't want. Yeah, it's really hard to think that you're like sort of financially supporting something so awful. I don't know who would get the money now, but maybe his family or something. And I don't think that would be right. I don't know. Oh yeah, sorry, Evie. I saw that you posted on Twitter that you were afraid it was the case you were thinking of, and yeah, he wrote and drew this and just tells exactly what he did. He talks about killing and eating a person. It's messed up. It's so messed up. I mean, it is one thing to book on, say, I think that, for instance, the book Dahmer by Durf Backdurf is a fascinating book because it tells about who he was, but also within the perspective of who he was before he was a killer. And it tells it from Durf's perspective as somebody that knew him, that went to school with him. That's fair game. Or even somebody that's, long past, what was one of the best books? Oh, yeah, I've got it right here, actually. Did you hear what Eddie Gein done by true crime writer Harold Schechter and art by Eric Powell? This is a really fascinating, good book, but they're not writing about their own stuff. This is like somebody that wrote about their crime and what they got out of it. And that's pretty horrible. It's pretty horrible. Yeah, he did like everything bad that you could do. And he talks about how he wanted to do this. Like there was no like, oh, he got angry in a moment. He talks about how he brought prostitutes to his apartment for weeks. He may have said months with a gun. And his goal was to kill them and eat them, but he just couldn't get up the courage to until he finally could kill this fellow student that was studying art. Just scary as hell. So just something that somebody's talking about. And look, true crime, sometimes I'm into true crime, but I have to admit the only stuff I like is stuff that has closure, where they actually catch the person and they go to prison or something like that. I have the hardest time listening to unsolved murders. Like it just never, it just makes me feel terrible about the world. If there's closure, I'm like, okay, there was a measure of justice, and that's I can sort of understand it. But anyway, yeah, look at that. The manga is just adding off on the back. It's awful. Yeah, I agree. The Ed Gein, like these are interesting stories, but yeah. I would not call it exploitative at all, just to be clear. No, I think it's a fascinating story talking about who a certain person was and not really able to explain what he did, but give us context of who he was growing up and what somebody knew, like actually know him. That's fair, Evie. Yeah, important to prevent future monstrosities. There is a bit of awareness that we can get from these things. It's going better that folks like you are here, Tari. Thank you for that's yeah. Well, yeah, I think you're sort of right there. It does seem a little profit minded because it's what's popular, at least podcast wise. Um, but sometimes their work does lead to the capture of a killer or a measure of justice. Patton Oswalt's late wife did so much research on what was the name of the killer in California, like the Golden State Killer, I think it was. And her book came out posthumously, and her research led to them capturing the killer. So sometimes true crime does have its place. I don't like any how-to aspect of true crime. That's a great angle on all of this, Randy. You're right. Like, this is almost like, here's what I did and here's how to do it, and that's pretty disgusting. Thank you, thanks, Gene. Yeah, Golden State Killer. So, oh yeah, no, I'm talking about somebody that passed away quite a long time ago now. Just to be clear, yeah, poor. But he's remarried, and it seems like him is very, very happy, and so that's nice. I'm going to move on to another piece of news. I'm going to just scroll past before I pull it so you guys don't. Whoops, I scrolled a little too far. Let me just. This is all pure fiction, but it's a collaborative project between Japanese and Western, United States creators, a horror anthology. It's going to be coming out through Viz Media. It's going to be called Betwixt, and it's going to have 6 different stories, 3 by Japanese manga creators, 3 by American comic creators. The cover and a foreword will be by Junji Ito, so that'll help on a horror comic. Like, that'll definitely help. This artwork here is by a creator named Ryo Hanada, and that's one of the 3 creators. There's also Aki Shimizu and Shima Shinya, if you're familiar with any of their work. I have to admit, I'm not. And then on the American side, we've got Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, Leslie Hung, Sloan Leung, and Hua Hua Zhu. Cool. Just thought it sounded like an interesting idea of combining like a horror book by both Western and Eastern comic creators. I was like, yeah, why don't we see something like collaborative like that more often? Thank you, Jean. Her name was not coming to me. Michelle McNamara. Yeah, she did a lot of work on researching the Golden State Killer, and in a lot of ways, that research led to the killer actually being caught. It was a cold case. So that's, I think, an example of the true crime genre producing something positive. Yeah, what a great idea. What's the book called? It's that first word that you're seeing in the bullet points, Betwixt. It's going to be called Betwixt. So that's this November through Viz. And I think it should be cool. Let's see. Ito is great, but prefer his main influence, Kazuo Umeza and Dajiro Morohoshi. Okay. I will have to look into those creators. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. And then Zach is agreeing that like Umezu is the best. International collabo, cool idea. Yeah, isn't it? Because think of like we collaborate all the time with artists and writers from Europe all the time. Like so many Italian and Spanish artists, certainly lots of British writers, Scottish artists. I'm just making like just all over the place. We hire plenty of artists in American comics from these places. We hire them from South America. There's lots of Argentinian artists. We've got tons and tons of Filipino artists that work on American comics. But I like the idea of collaboration in terms of, there's manga, there's American comics, there's bande dessinée. I don't know, bande dessinée, I think it's pronounced. French comics, Belgian comics. And they each definitely have their own cultural touchstones. I would love to see more collaboration there, more there. That would be really, really fun. Umezu became kind of a celeb, though. He stopped drawing since the 90s. You know, power to people that are able to do that. I would get bored doing nothing personally. I would get bored if I won the lottery or something. I'm not going to win the lottery because I pretty much play it like once every 10 years. I always forget, even when like the jackpot is like up to $1 billion. I'm like, oh, I should spend $1 to have a chance. I forget. But if I won a lottery or something, I I'd have to do still a type of work to feel self-satisfaction with myself. I would probably still do either YouTube or, you know, just pay out the buttload for like artists to make comics. That's what I would do if I was independently wealthy. Honestly, though, I'd probably also donate tons to charity if I'm being realistic. I probably would. Uh, let's move on to another story here. As long as we're sort of talking a little bit about, Eastern and Western comics, I give a little bit of thought to the order of the news items here. Webtoons, huge, huge, huge. Just to be clear, they get something like 85 million unique visitors a month. 85 million viewers read Webtoons. It's humongous. So, the vice president of content, David Lee, was interviewed by the Popverse, and he announced some of the upcoming projects that they have. So I just thought I'd mention that. One is something they called the first web novel adaptation, and it was called Night Owls and Summer Skies. Unfortunately, they didn't ask any follow-up questions or go into that, so I don't exactly know what they mean by that. Maybe they just mean not serialized, like you're going to get the whole story all at once. That's my best guess. I really don't know, but I'm mentioning it so that like maybe we can remember if we hear follow-up news. Um, they've also been doing stuff collaborating with other publishers. So with Archie, they make a book called Big Ethel Energy. I say book, but an online webtoon. And I guess that's been super successful. So they're going to do season 2 of Big Ethel Energy. I think it has a great art style. Batman, Wayne Family Adventures, that's super popular. That's going to continue. And he announced this. I think that this is good timing too. They're working with Wizards of the Coast to make a Dungeons and Dragons webtoons comic. That's a good idea. I like Dungeons and Dragons is like definitely huge these days. Like, I mean, we're about to get a mainstream movie, and all indications are that this movie is getting excellent reviews. They are showing it to Amazon Prime members. You can go, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you're allowed to buy a ticket to a showing on Tuesday as long as you have a theater nearby that's participating. When a movie is shown early to the general public, that's usually an indication that the producers are very confident that it's going to help spread good word of mouth. So that's a really good sign. I think it looks fun, and a comic on Webtoons is just sort of a no-brainer for getting that brand out there. I'm sure there's a lot of crossover interest there. And then one that they said is kind of newer that I just thought sounded like a hilarious premise. I cut off the image here a little, but it's called Vampire Husband. And so you've got this still young-looking vampire guy and like his elderly wife, because they've been married so long and they love each other, but he's a vampire. And it's just funny stuff. Like she catches a bat in the house and she goes, "Can you talk to him?" And it goes squeak squeak, and he goes, "Yeah, it says that you're very beautiful." And she's like, "Aw." It's just silly. It's just silly. I guess this is okay. No is guessing at what the web novel adaptation means. Sounds like either a comic adaptation of a novel or a novelization of a comic. I agree, but I just couldn't find any more information there to make sense of it. I just want to see a live action gelatinous cube. Well, you will get to see that soon. I hope the Dungeons Dragon movie is good, considering the others were sci-fi and Lifetime original movies, and it wasn't that great. No, they weren't that great. They did not protect their brand very well with those first attempts. But this one looks pretty darn funny to me. And I'll say something: if you ever play any role-playing games, a lot of times they're very funny. You're usually playing with friends, and you're trying to think outside the box to do unique things. and it ends up pretty funny. So adding some humor sounds very authentic to me, to the experience of playing Dungeons and Dragons. We will see what happens. But those are some interesting web comics. Personally, the one I'm most curious about, I want to read more Vampire Husband. I really do. Oh, tell you what, as long as we're talking about sort of upcoming movies and stuff, I want to give you guys a warning. Please don't say anything if you've already seen this spot. Like, please don't say anything in the comments. I'm definitely not going to highlight that. There is a Shazam TV ad. If you see an ad for Shazam on TV right now, not an official trailer, just the ad on TV, stop watching it. It gives away a humongous cameo. It just gives it away. Terrible, terrible advertising. I would have preferred to see that in the theater. I don't want to say who or what that is. I hope you haven't seen it, but if you see a Shazam ad on TV, just block your eyes and ears. Block your eyes and ears. Terrible. You spoiled it for yourself? Yeah, it's so frustrating that they did that. Just terrible. That was not an official Dungeons and Dragons thing, that movie. That was a TV movie. The first thing Tom Hanks did, and it was called something like Mazes and Minotaurs. It's actually kind of funny how bad it is. Yes, you gave it away. It's Pacepaw Pete now. But yeah, I'm just wanted to warn you guys, like, just awful. Just awful. Mazes and monsters. That I said mazes and minotaurs. I went too deep. It's crazy. Let's see what else we've got for news. This is a follow-up from a piece of news we were talking about actually the last 2 weeks, where at the Comics Pro convention, that was like an industry convention with a lot of different distributors, as well as a bunch of retailers and stuff. And one of the things they announced was that Diamond Comics said they're going to be able to drop their freight charges by 40% by this June, 20% in May, another 20% in June. Well, that's kind of weird that they could drop that much that fast. So there was an interview. I've got a quote of it excerpted here on the left. It was through ICV2, great industry resource, with Jen Haynes. She's both the president of Comics Pro as well as the owner of a place called The Dragon that's up in Ontario. And so listen to what she has to say about this. She says, Diamond did make a move on the terms of shipping, going down 20% in April and again 20% in June, which is fabulous. But they also talked about how they're moving offices and consolidating space, saving them a bunch of overhead that allows them to cut the shipping rates. For a lot of retailers, that confirmed suspicions that Diamond was marking up the shipping to cover their other business costs. And the concession is just to give people the price they should have gotten all along. So that announcement didn't go down as well as it could have. Yikes. Yikes. So anyway, yeah, K-Bar. Diamond told on themselves so badly. Really glad they exposed themselves for being so scummy to retailers. To be fair, they have also done good things for retailers, especially during the pandemic. They sort of helped be the middleman between the publishers and the stores to help keep them going, like with like, you know, so they have done good things too. I don't want to just poop on them. I don't like swearing on the podcast, but that's not the way I talk in real life. So that made me laugh. It's just, yeah, that's how you felt. Exactly. I think that's how a lot of us felt. It was like, if they had just told us we've brokered new deals with UPS and left it vague like that, people would have gone, huh, wow, you know, thanks for saving. But when you start explaining like, and here's what we did to save money, and it was all these like sort of common sense things that they probably should have already done. You're like, okay, so you were just running business kind of like haphazardly and passing those expenses on to everybody else? That's weird. That's weird. I would do a swear. In real life, I would do a swear. For me to poop on. Oh man, Triumph the Insult comic is great. Shane has some insider info in the sense that he's a retailer. He says the 40% markdown is on print material only. Yes, exactly. Freight costs for the comics, right? And in one sense, good. Okay, we're getting a discount. You got to keep the business going. A discount is good, keeps them competitive with all these other distributors. It's annoying to think retroactively, and you can't change anything, but cool. So you mean like I was basically paying more than I should have? Like you guys could have done a better job. Yes, exactly. Not statues and stuff like that. No merchandise markdown. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. I sincerely was I'm in a comics frame of mind. I forget. Diamond does do distribution for a lot of other stuff. And yeah, there's tons of comics related merchandise. They're still the big player there. They still distribute a lot of stuff, including comics and merchandise outside of the US. But anyway, they pass on the losses to you. Sounds like the exact strategy a company with little or no competition might do. That was probably the issue. Now they've got competition. I just think that they probably should have, like, if they didn't want this bad press, they probably should have just kept it a little more vague as to how they're saving that money. That's all. Like they were like completely transparent, which morally is the right thing to do, but it doesn't make them look good in retrospect. Oh well. Thanks, Shane, for pointing that out. So what do I mean when I say that Russia is targeting a manga gang? This is obviously a news story that's breaking, and it's going to have some different points of view depending on the news source that you're looking at. When you also have to factor in, not only is it political, but the news that we get from Russia is obviously going to be biased or sometimes untrue. So, like, there are several filters when we're getting news coming out of Russia. But I think we have a few basic facts here. What you're seeing here in like the image that I'm using, that's a screen capture of a gang in fighting a bunch of other teenagers. So first of all, let me set this up. There is a big gang of a sort in Russia. That much we know, and it is based in part on the Hunter x Hunter manga. There's a gang in that's known as the Phantom Troop. Uh, the Japanese word for troop is Ryodan. So in Russia, there is a huge gang known as PMC Ryodan. The PMC stands for Private Military Company, but it seems like the gang really gave that name to themselves as more of a joke. From most of the sources I was reading, it sounds like this is a very nerdy gang, that this is like 14 to 15-year-olds. They wear a certain like spider emblem and the number 4 in black jackets because the characters in the manga do. Some of them might get that as a tattoo, but there's a lot of news sources that also say that, like they're sort of like friendly or protective of the LGBTQ community, which Russia is definitely not friendly to. That there are basically a lot of skinheads that hate this gang. But Russia has said that they have arrested more than 450 of these gang members from the Ryodan movement. They've accused these teenagers of destabilizing society, and they said that they might even send some of them to the front lines of the war that they're engaging with the Ukraine. That one sounded extra crazy to me. Who knows? Who knows? So this is like happening all across Russia, though. This is like a big gang. Apparently, this is just like a real Hunter x Hunter is really, really popular there. And, it's been around for like, what, 30 years more, a little more than 30 years. But there are some articles that like say that the gang is dangerous. And then there's other articles that say that the gang is the victim. So I'm not a news reporter. I don't have quite enough information. Like I tried to read as many different news articles this past week as possible. I lean towards thinking that this is a pretty nerdy group that probably is just not like because they're friendly to, like gay people and like they're nerdy and stuff like that. I think that Russia just does not like them. But I think that this is a Russian disinformation campaign when they say that they're like destabilizing their society. It's hard to know. It's hard to know with Russia, especially these days. But that's what's going on. It's crazy. Just 450 kids arrested in just like less than a month. So yeah, they're a bunch of weeb kids. They're almost definitely harmless nerds. Supposedly, this gang exists in the Ukraine as well. So I don't know. Like maybe they are legit trying to destabilize their government. But then again, I don't know that I'd really have a problem with that. Oh, look at this. I got to acknowledge a super chat. Brandon, thank you so much. As a newcomer to comic books, welcome. I've nearly finished the collected Hellboy volumes. Your video is pinned on the Hellboy subreddit. Oh my God, I had no idea. So the fans clearly appreciate your video. Love your content. Keep it up. I've been wanting to do another Mike Mignola or Hellboy video, so I will keep that in mind. I had no idea that that was pinned there. Thank you so much for the support. Let's see. Jackie says, oh gosh, I remember we used to sell Phantom Troop t-shirts at my old job. Yeah, I mean, it's popular. Hunter x Hunter is very popular. I don't know if these kids are bad or not. All I can tell you is that tons of them are getting arrested, and it seems to me that the fights they're getting in are with skinheads. From all the pictures I saw at like this mall in somewhere in Russia, they all seemed like they were fighting with skinheads. You say it's Ukraine, not the Ukraine? Oh, okay. I guess I never heard that, but okay. Even if they aren't totally harmless, it's still effed up behavior of the Russian government. It's weird to target 14 and 15-year-olds, right? That's the age group we're talking. We are not really talking about a gang of 20-somethings. We're not talking about a gang of adults. They're still kids. So, yeah. It's weird. It's weird. It's also just interesting, isn't it, that manga and probably the anime, realistically, make it over there. But then the government like allows it in, but then gets mad at like people for like getting really into it. I don't know. Very strange. I used to want to visit Russia for a long time, but that was basically in the era of like after perestroika and stuff, definitely before Putin. And Putin's been in charge for a long time, but there was a period of time where it didn't seem that dangerous to want to take a trip to like Finland and then go over to St. Petersburg for a week. But I don't know now. I just don't know. Moving on. A film distributor has picked up Shortcomings. I don't know how many of you have read the comics of Adrian Tomine. Or is it, am I pronouncing that right? Is it just, I think it's Tomine. Great comic book artist and writer. Great. Writes some fantastic, very personal feeling stuff, even if it's not based on his life. Some of it is. Anyway, this guy, Randall Park, you've probably seen him in a bunch of TV shows and movies. I think he's a pretty hilarious guy. I remember watching him back on like Channel 101. Dan Harmon and Rob Schraub created Channel 101. And I remember Randall Park being in a bunch of those early videos. But so it's always been cool to see him take off as a movie and TV actor. But he has directed his first movie, and it is an adaptation of Shortcomings. Screenplay by Adrian Tomine himself. Awesome. Okay, my sister says it is just Ukraine. Got it. Channel 101. I know. Channel 101 is awesome. Sony Pictures Classics picked up the distribution rights to this. As far as the story, I'm just going to give you super brief overview. Ben Tanaka is this guy in America. He is not very politically active. His girlfriend, Miko, is super politically active, basically like for Asian American issues. And this guy isn't a perfect guy. He has sort of a wandering eye. He's attracted to white women, and that creates relationship difficulties. So it's sort of a light comedy drama. Anyway, I just thought it was cool to see more of an independent comic get picked up and distributed. It's a more original idea than most things that we get to see. Yes, shout out to Channel 101. Rob Schraub, we all got to love him for doing the independent self-published comic Scud the Disposable Assassin. Great guy. Great. Who's the inker? I thought that it was all by Adrian. Jim says, when I lived in LA, I had the pleasure of going to Channel 101 every month. What a time. Hot damn. That is so cool. Well, the next time we get to like hang out, Jim, I'm going to like definitely talk your ear off about like which things you liked and who you got to see. Yeah. So that's awesome. Yes, comic book movies for cartoonist kayfabe guys. I think that that's a fair description, but I personally definitely want to see it. I do. I don't think Randall Park is acting in it. I think he's purely directing. But screenplay by Adrian Tomine himself, that's a selling point to me. I hope you remember Scud. If you haven't read Scud, Image did eventually collect the full story. Rob Schraub came back years and years after he had left it unfinished, and he did finally finish it. You can read the whole shebang. That's what it's called. It's a really unique sci-fi story. Very funny, but also very weird. Very cool. As long as we're talking about sort of Asian American comics, maybe you saw this week. There was a trailer for American Born Chinese. That was a graphic novel by Jean Lun Yang. It's great. And Disney Plus is making a live action adaptation of it. The original comic is a little hard to describe. It's a very personal story. And it sort of has three very distinct chapters. The first two feel completely separate, and then they sort of combine in the third overall chapter. I'm calling them chapter. You could call them an act, like just significant breaks. The first one is mostly about the Monkey King, the legend of the Monkey King. Been told many times. I know he swapped out Buddha for just a Chinese god, but it's about like the Monkey King not really being happy with who he is. And then there was a second story that focused on a character named Jin Wang, who was the son of immigrant parents, but he was born in America. He goes to school and there's almost nobody else is Asian. It's almost all white. And it talks about his difficulties there. And that part felt very personal. And then there's a third story, and you start to realize that characters from the first two chapters are sort of versions of characters in the third chapter. It's hard to describe. And I looked at the trailer and I was like, it looked very surreal. I couldn't quite pinpoint which images were relating to which chapters and stuff. It might merge those things back and forth a little more fluidly than just like this act, this act, this act. It may like be a little bit more integrated in that regard. But one cool thing about it, this show is going to star Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan. They both won the Oscar last night for their movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Looks like Reed Richards. It does look like the Reed Richards image that we saw earlier tonight. That is a funny coincidence, actually. Let me pull that back up and just show you. So we've got Reed Richards stretching, and we've got Michelle Yeoh doing something very surreal. But I guess it's not comic book related, but it makes me happy to see their success. I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was my favorite movie of the year. It just was. I loved it. It was based on at least an original idea. It wasn't a sequel or an adaptation. I love movies, so that was fun to see. It had one of my favorite like YouTube channels did all the martial arts choreography, Martial Club. If you haven't watched them, I think they did a great job on the fight scene stuff. Um, and it was just exciting to see, like, Ke Huy Quan was somebody like, he's close to my age, and I grew up seeing him in like Indiana Jones and Goonies, and then obviously, like once he became a teenager, he sort of stopped getting a lot of work as an actor. To see him come back and be recognized in such a huge way is just, it's really nice. I hope it continues for him. I really do. I agree with, yeah. Uh, Such great points all across, like that you guys are throwing out. Yeah, American Born Chinese came together in a clever, surprising way. It's a great graphic novel, folks. It's from like 2007 or so. Um, can't believe Turned Down for What music video guys are now Academy Award winning directors. I also like their movie Swiss Army Man. That was pretty awesome. Um, oh yeah, first Shang-Chi and now this. Glad that their channel got their break. That's true. They did work on Shang-Chi, and interestingly, just a different connection. Dustin Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi, is directing and overseeing American Born Chinese. So it's definitely a comic I recommend. Yeah, I recommend the comic, and we'll see what happens. But this TV show version will come out in May. Hopefully, it's a good adaptation. I sure hope so. As long as we're sort of talking about Disney Plus stuff, I thought this was pretty big news for the MCU. John Bernthal confirmed to be returning as the Punisher. Although I say return because, of course, he played the Punisher on the Netflix shows, but obviously the version of Daredevil that's now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is essentially a reboot that's just using some of the same actors. Same actor of Daredevil and Kingpin, we already knew were coming back. Daredevil, Punisher actor John Bernthal also returning. He's a great actor. I'll be honest, I really liked him in season 2 of the Daredevil Netflix show. I liked him as an actor, but I didn't feel that Punisher season 1 and 2 was quite Punisher-y enough, especially season 2. And are any of the other Netflix actors, coming back? We haven't heard anything about, like, Luke Cage or Jessica Jones. We do know not everybody will be returning. For instance, the actors that play Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, they're not coming back. Are those characters in this? We don't know that yet either. I would have to imagine very likely both of them will be in this. They're very important to the Born Again story. We do know that the actress playing the Kingpin's wife, Vanessa Fisk, has been recast, although that this was more due to availability. Ayelet Zurer played Vanessa Fisk in season 3 and season 2, I guess, of Daredevil. I think she was in both season 2 and season 3, but she's on some other show, and they're not going to delay Daredevil anymore for that. They just can't. So they had to recast that no matter what. Actress Sandrine Holt is going to play that role. Yeah, they may come back later. We don't know. Foggy and Karen were both very good. They really were. Especially Karen, I have to say. Deborah Ann Woll did a really good Karen. They took Karen in some directions I wasn't always totally happy with, like her becoming a reporter. I'm not against her doing that detective work for, like, for the Nelson and Murdoch law firm. It's a little weird that she was doing it as a full-on reporter, and I was like, well, you guys probably shouldn't have killed off Ben Urich. Ben Urich is a really important character in both Spider-Man and Daredevil, and they killed him off. And it was like, well, and then it felt like they had to put Karen Page in that role. So I think that was a mistake on the Netflix show. Oh, thank you, Wally. Tomine. Okay. Tomine. My apologies. I just love the way D'Onofrio said Vanessa. It's a personal meme for me. I'm glad that Vincent D'Onofrio is coming back. Has come back. It's really cool. It's really cool. And I hope that they decide to do some different things. They have done some different things with Daredevil. I think they've lightened him up, and that's a very valid interpretation. Daredevil definitely started as a Spider-Man-esque character that would sort of be a little more goofy and joke around, and then the comics got darker. I think we could follow a similar path in the MCU. Yes, the actor playing Ben Urich did pass away, but they killed the character off first. Your favorite character? It's a great supporting character. He really is. Ben Urich is a great supporting character. I would love to see them potentially do a better Punisher outfit. I don't think that any of the live action Punishers have really had a great Punisher look yet. I don't even know. I guess my favorite might sort of be Punisher Warzone, because it was a little more tactical, but I don't think any of them have really been great. So hopefully they can make that look a little better. We'll see. We'll see. And hey, if they want to put Jigsaw in, they could definitely do a lot better. I will say that Jigsaw in season 2 of Punisher was pretty terrible, in my opinion. I just did not care for that take at all. Like a little bit of light scratching. Like looked like he'd just been playing with his cat that morning, and the cat like scratched him a little. Jigsaw, I'm Jigsaw. Yes, I think that the Punisher should dress like a pirate with a skull hat. But then he's almost Fool Killer, isn't he? Because Fool Killer sort of runs around in a pirate outfit and does what Punisher does. Oh, some people are saying like the guy that played Ben Urich is still alive. Okay, so I couldn't remember off the top of my head. Oh, I know who you guys are thinking of. There was another actor in season 1 of Daredevil that did pass away. Or was it even Daredevil? Hold on. Oh, I'm trying to think. No, I think it was an actor on Luke Cage, actually. I think it was an actor on Luke Cage that passed away. I can't remember the actor's name. I can't remember. I'll come back to it. We'll keep moving on with the news. Marvel has a new hero coming up. They promoted this on their page. Kahorti, young Mohawk woman. This is going to be set pre-colonization. We're talking. Not going to debut in the comics. Going to debut on the animated What If show. So season 2, there's going to be a story with her where the Tesseract, that's the space Infinity Stone, that's going to like sort of land in Mohawk land, and somehow she's going to get powers, I guess. It's going to be written by Ryan Little. He wrote a bunch of What If, and he collaborated with Mohawk Nation historians and language experts so that they could like get it authentic. And the episode will actually be all in the Mohawk language, kind of like the movie Prey, that Predator movie, that they like did like a version of that all in the Mohawk language. And it'll be a look at what that area in upstate New York looked like at the time, as long as they can do a good job with the animation. And don't worry, there's going to be a Funko Pop toy of her the end of this month, Walmart exclusive. So that's pretty exciting, isn't it? Ryan Little is also the name of a guy I went to school with in, wait for it, Scituate. There you go. Let's not give his address or phone number though. Yeah, why are they doing a Funko figure? When are they going out of business? They're probably not going out of business right away, even if they have some trouble. So let's see. According to the Weekly Planet guys, the actress from Prey is doing the voice of this character. Oh, Amber Midlothian, is that her name? I want to say that that's her name. I didn't know that. But that would actually make some sense. That would be a good fit. Full costume Punisher will be indistinguishable from full-blown Proud Boy. Yes. Well, you could make some changes. Mid Thunder. I don't know what I was thinking. When you mention Fool Killer, yep, I know. Corey always used that name back in the early days. Yep. Thank you for correcting me, everyone. Amber Midthunder. Amber Midthunder is apparently going to do the voice for Kahorti. Sounds good to me. How many more comics have I got? A bunch. I need to do that. Let me jump back to a super chat that my sister told me I missed. My apologies. Okay. Thank you, Larry. Speaking of the MCU, I just saw Ant-Man and really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. Very Star Wars influenced and some scary concepts, in my opinion. People saying Kang doesn't make sense being introduced in this are wrong. Hive Mind versus Hive Mind, much love. Yeah, it was not a perfect film at all. The special effects are sometimes good and sometimes really not too good. So that was a little disappointing. But I had fun. I had fun at it, and I think that Kang is a really cool villain to introduce as a big bad going forward. We'll see. I liked it. We'll see. Somebody, Connor, I think I missed a chat, but said hopes Wyatt Wingfoot shows up in the MCU at some point. Yeah, maybe like a season 2 of She-Hulk would be a good place to introduce that, or maybe the Fantastic Four movie. Wyatt Wingfoot's a good character. Hasn't been used much lately. Has not been used much in quite a while, but was a very important character throughout a lot of the 80s in Marvel. Very important. Very important. There's not much more to say other than to show this. Marvel and Chip Zdarsky showed this. What you're looking at is essentially an announcement that the creative team on Daredevil, who's been on it for almost 5 years, since 2019, is going to be wrapping up their Daredevil run. It's been a lot of people loved it. I've read some of it. I haven't read too much. I've only read about the first about a year's worth of stories I read. So I need to catch up because I did love the art by Marco Cicchetto. Oh, great artwork. And I like Chip Zdarsky's crime work. But yeah, it just says, this is what God has done. And it sort of shows a, Daredevil mask burning away. It says that their saga ends in August. So, has anybody here read the Daredevil saga that Zdarsky and Cicchetto have put together? I'd be curious to hear opinions on that because I need to catch up. Chip, wasn't he part of National Chip Appreciation Day that I only just now heard about? I think that's later this week. Yeah, of course, Zdarsky doing a Paste Pot Pete series, as long as he brings me in. Read it from the start. It's great. Okay. Can't wait to read it in a collected edition. I am, and I'm enjoying it. Okay. So some good responses. The newest issues have big Metal Gear Solid vibes with having a vigilante PMC righting wrongs around the world. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to catching up on it at some point. Haven't seen much of his Daredevil run. I like Daredevil. I do. There's been a lot of good runs on Daredevil when you look at its history. There really are. Reading since the new #1, and it's really strong. Good. All-time great run. This is volume 2 of his run, and issue 14 is his finale. Yeah. One of the top 2 ongoings in Marvel. Okay. Would the other one be Fantastic Four or something else? Yes, Paste Pot Pete was not used for very long. He very quickly became the Trapster, which is not very exciting to me. I prefer Paste Pot Pete. Yeah, Marvel. I'm ready to do variant covers. If you want a Paste Pot Pete cover, I've got some great sticky ideas. You love the Elektra Daredevil costume? Sure. Hot take, I love the original yellow Daredevil costume. It's not bad. It's not bad. It was not used long, but it's not bad. Well, I'll move on because we've got plenty of news tonight. As long as we're talking Marvel comics and stuff, there's a new direction for the Hulk. We already knew that the current creative team is moving on. Ryan Ottley is making the last few issues himself as both writer and artist, but here's like a little cover by Nick Klein. Nick Klein will be the artist starting in June with a new writer, Philip Kennedy Johnson, who got a lot of acclaim for himself on his Superman work on Action Comics over the last couple of years. Moving over, working on a very different character at Marvel. The premise, which you sort of see hinted here with these sort of monsters, it's going to be that Bruce Banner / the Hulk is going to be hunted by creatures that apparently scare him. Like he's legit scared of them. It says in the ad copy that every monster in the Marvel universe will be hunting Hulk in an attempt to free the mother of horrors. When they say every monster, I really hope that's true. I want to see Morbius. I want to see Frankenstein. I want to see Dracula. I want to see Man-Thing. I want to see the monsters. I would love to see it. By the way, retitled The Incredible Hulk, starting with an issue 1, because that's the way it is. And also, apparently Bruce Banner will be dealing with the Hulk trying to take control of their body permanently. So it's about time, I think, to go back to that Hulk versus Bruce Banner dichotomy. Nick Klein will crush this. He's very, very talented. Very talented. I'll be honest. Wait, somebody said closer to the Immortal Hulk vibe. I can sort of see that, ChemDog. You know what it reminds me of was it Bruce Jones that did a version where like Hulk was on the run from the government? It sort of reminds me of that. Like it was more of like an X-Files conspiratorial thing. After Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk, I'm not sure if I need more Hulk for a while. Well, for me, I'm just always down for a good version. That's what I'm hoping for. As far as a monster, Art of Saw wants Goom to return. All right. Goom. That was Bruce Jones. But wait a minute. Now I'm worried. Was Bruce Jones the one that went to prison? Oh, geez. Because I won't recommend it if it's the person I'm thinking of. Give me a sec here to look that up. I'm looking it up. I might be thinking of somebody else. It's not him. Okay, it's not him. No, he didn't go to jail from what I'm seeing. Okay. Phew. Who am I thinking of? Oh, thank you for the correction. The same last name. I'm thinking of Gerard Jones. Yikes. Yeah, thank you, people. Thank you, people. Gerard Jones. Got it. Oh, what's my favorite Hulk run? That is not easy, Jamil, because I grew up really loving the Peter David run. I really loved it. And then I got older and I looked back and really had fun with the Bill Mantlo craziness because he was bonkers in his run. But I think I do prefer overall the recent Immortal Hulk run. I think that was a great 50-issue story. Oh, absolutely. I liked Jim Rugg's Hulk. Absolutely. It just tells the whole story of Hulk thus far. I'm not thinking of Rick Jones. The chat is faster than Google. I know. You guys are good. Peter David was the best. Peter David was my first run. Yep. I really liked how Immortal Hulk ended with Bruce and Hulk's relationship going in a new direction, and now it's back to the status quo. Well, look, a writer can sort of give the next creative team an opportunity to continue their ideas, but there's no obligation. I don't look at characters as like this is canon and everything absolutely happened. It's like, yes, technically that is the case. But the way I tend to look at ongoing serialized superhero runs is, did a creative team get to tell a complete story, a good run? And I can sort of segment that off and go, I like that. I can look at something like Uncanny X-Force, and even though Wolverine and Deadpool and all of them have had many adventures since then, I felt like Rick Remender still told a story with a beginning, middle, and end for the characters in terms of an emotional journey. that they like came to a closing point. So I can look at stories and just appreciate when creators have been able to not have to do too many crossovers and got to tell a version of that story. And I'm not going to love every version before or after that, but that's okay. That's okay. But I think that this looks good. I'm going to try it out. I'm definitely going to try it out. I'm not super familiar with Philip Kennedy Johnson's work. I haven't read tons of it. Nick Klein, I do really like as an artist. And I like the idea of Hulk versus monsters. So if they give that to me, if they give me a bunch of Hulk fighting monsters, that's something I want. As long as we're talking new comics, DC announced a bunch of stuff. And I'll just sort of say this. If you're looking to jump onto any DC comics, the Dawn of DC is a great jumping on point. They really are starting things with fresh creative teams. And while stuff that's happened before happened, they're not delving super deeply into it. They've got a really clean jumping on point for a lot of different characters here. I'm really appreciating that. So let's start with Wonder Woman here. First of all, this June will be legacy numbering Wonder Woman number 800. Pretty high up there. Some of the people working on it, Becky Cloonan, Michael W. Conrad, Tom King, artists like Joelle Jones, Jen Bartel, Daniel Sampere. And two of those people are going to be the ongoing artists for a new run that starts in September. Wonder Woman number 1 in September is going to be Tom King and Daniel Sampere. Should be good. Here's the premise. A mysterious Amazonian is accused of mass murder, and so U.S. Congress passes the Amazon Safety Act, barring all Amazons from U.S. soil. Makes sense. Wonder Woman, she's now going to be an outlaw searching for the truth. Okay, I'm in. Give me some Amazonian mythology as well as like taking away the easy resources a superhero should have. I like that. I was trying to think the other day of like, what would I do if I was somehow handed the reins to, I don't know, a random book like Fantastic Four? And one of the things I like to do is try to get to the core of a character by temporarily, anyway, taking away an element of what makes their life easier. For instance, I would love to tell a Fantastic Four story where Mr. Fantastic, he's a genius, right? He's always solving problems with his scientific brain, but he hasn't always been a member of the team and they've still been successful. I would love to give him some sort of cosmic concussion that sincerely gives him brain damage, but to show that he's still a hero without necessarily having his cleverness, that, it's his humanity and his quick decision making, his personality that makes him a hero as compared to just his smarts. I think that would be interesting anyway. I'd do something like that anyway. If I was given any title, I'd try to take away one element for a little while just to show that it's more who they are at their core, their personality that makes them heroic. There's some other upcoming DC books, though, including The Flash. And the current writer is not really happy that he was taken off of it. But similar to Wonder Woman, Flash number 800 comes out in June. They've got writers like Mark Waid, Jeff Johns, Joshua Williamson, Jeremy Adams. He's the current writer. Artists including Fernando Passarin, Osclair Albert, Todd Knock, Carmine Di Giandomenico, I'm guessing at that one, Scott Collins, Mike Deodato Jr. So moving forward, it's relaunching. There's going to be a new issue 1 in September, and the ongoing writer is Simon Spurrier, artist Mike Deodato Jr. Premise, Wally West is experiencing new powers and feelings of dark vibrations beyond the Speed Force. Doesn't really do much for me, although I do think Cy Spurrier has written a lot of great comics, but that doesn't do a lot for me. Here on the left, I've got a tweet from Jeremy Adams, the current writer on The Flash. He says, well, a couple of months ago, I was told my time on The Flash was coming to an end with issue 800. I am very bummed about the decision. I've fallen in love with the West family and had many more stories in mind, but they said they wanted a new creative and tonal direction, and well, that's that. However, I am forever grateful for my time with the Wests and all the adventures we've had together. I also want to extend a big thank you to the Flash family. You guys are the best fans a nerd like me could ask for. So, next, Green Lantern, a couple of movies, and I'm going to try my hand at a creator owned story that I hope y'all will join me for. Stay tuned. Well, good luck to Jeremy Adams. I did not read this current Flash run, but a lot of people are telling me that it's really, really good. Interesting. I'm seeing like some people that don't love the Flash. You wouldn't read it for free. Been a lame character to you. Okay. I'm not a fan of Spurrier's writing, and it's doubly upsetting losing the fun run Jeremy Adams had. Yo, Simon Spurrier's book, Damn Them All, is awesome, is all I can say. I love that book right now. Love it. Well, sorry you folks aren't too excited for this. We will see what happens with the sales. I get what DC is doing. You know, they're resetting, and they're trying to make an easy jumping on point. Business-wise, that's good. Creative-wise, maybe not great to take off a team when they're hitting their stride. I've seen this happen before. Sometimes it really kills momentum. He's hard to write because he's so powerful. Yeah, I do think that that is an element of the Flash. You know, his speed is his only power, but that meant writers just started giving him all sorts of powers that were somehow connected to speed. And he didn't just run fast, he could like control time. And at that point, you know, you're a god. You know, he can run through walls, he can run through time. Wait, what? What does that have to do with being fast? I do think that I agree. I think that Flash has become arguably too powerful. And they've really, you know, like Johns like took the Green Lanterns and was like, and now there's red and orange and yellow lanterns and, you know, purple and Indo lanterns, pink lanterns, there's white lanterns, there's black lanterns. There's just so many lanterns. They're starting to do that with the Flash because they had the Speed Force. And you know what? When that was created, that was a good idea. They just said, hey, guess what? There's a cosmic force that gives him his speed and lets him run really fast without, you know, getting too tired or burning up from friction or having a bug hit him in the eye and taking that eye out because he's going at like Mach 7. It was just a general concept. It was the Speed Force. But now the Flash, I guess, has things like, you know, the slow force and the dark force and the death force, and they've got all these extra forces. It's just too much. It's just too much. You don't have to explain it all. You don't have... sorry, I like this one. Victor says nerf the Flash by giving him arthritis. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I like the Flash sometimes, just to be clear. I'm not just bagging on the Flash. I just do feel that they don't have to explain it all and give it like this deep mythology, you know? I'll go back to the news because we've got more news. We've got great news to get to. I like this one. As far as new DC books go, there's going to be a Steelworks book focusing on steel, John Henry Irons. And guess who's writing it? Michael Dorn. Yes, Worf. Worf from Star Trek is going to write a comic book. I'm curious to see what he does with it. I don't know if he's going to be a good writer. I have no idea, but I'm curious. I will admit that. And just to be clear, there is a connection. It's not out of nowhere. He used to be the voice of Steel on Superman the Animated series. So he's going to be the writer. This starts in June, like the other two books we just mentioned. Artist Sami Basri. I don't know Basri, but here's the story. It's going to be a terrorist set on attacking Metropolis and getting revenge on one of the builders of some big building there, John Henry Irons, a.k.a. Steel. The series, which is part of the Dawn of DC initiative, will find John wondering if he should put an end to his second life as a superhero and focus instead on his relationship with Lana Lang. Sure, go for it, man. Yeah, go for your relationship. Why do both? Didn't Michael Dorn write a DS9 comic book back in the day? I don't know. If he did, I don't know about that. His relationship with Lana Lang, I always hear about this stuff after everyone else. I didn't know about it either. I didn't know. Yes. Well, you say weird. I'd say terrible. The Steel movie is terrible. I love that like they try to give him being Steel a moment where he has to shoot a basket because he's played by Shaquille O'Neal. It's with a grenade, right? Like there's a bad guy on the other side of like a brick wall, and he like shoots this grenade and it like bounces. Is it going to go through the hole? It does. And then the guy screams in absolute terror, and we cut away as I guess it completely just obliterates this guy. Kind of violent, actually, for such a goofy movie. A superhero quitting heroing? I'm sure that will last. Sometimes you just have to have a hero go through this. Sometimes you just have to have the hero question, what is it called in the hero's journey? The call to adventure, and then like resisting the call. So it's something you just sort of have to do. It's a starting point for a story. Well, maybe that's why his free throw didn't just go straight through the wall. I don't know. The Steel movie, it's just one movie, thank God. There were not two. The Steel movies make me glad that Shaq isn't writing the series. Yes. I know Shaq loves Superman. That's awesome. He also loves koi fish. He's got a beautiful pond. I respect that as a koi pond owner. But yeah, Steel was bad. Steel was just bad. But hey, who knows? Maybe Worf can bring it. Modern Worf's hair. Are there going to be any Vertigo comics movies? James Gunn obviously overseeing the DC movies now. He replied to a fan and he said, because they were saying like, are there going to be more Vertigo characters like Swamp Thing? And he said, Swamp Thing was in Vertigo comics, but he was really a DC character. That's true. That said, we're dealing with a couple potential things with Vertigo comics that I really adored. Okay, no big hint there, but I just want to open this up. If they adapted some Vertigo comics, what are some comics that have been Vertigo, or I'll even allow it to expand to the current DC Black label, that you would want to see? Constantine, by the way, yeah, that is a Vertigo thing, but supposedly we are getting Constantine too. Constantine in the movies. Books of Magic, so that the Harry Potter fans can enjoy new Magic Boy movie without any guilt. That's not a bad idea. They've already got Sandman, true. Fables, yes, I love Fables. Fables is not a bad idea. 100 Bullets probably would work best as a TV show, I'm thinking, but yeah, that could definitely be a thing. Do they own Spider Jerusalem? I don't think so. I don't know. Scalped is damn good. Human Target, there's a lot of good Human Target stories. No, Ronin was way before Vertigo existed, and I'm pretty sure. Well, yeah, that's definitely owned by Frank Miller because he's doing a sequel right now through his imprint. We got Preacher, and I live to regret it. Yeah, you know what? They cast Preacher well, but I think it was just too low budget to do properly. It was just too low budget. Oh, Steve, thank you for the super chat. Give this a like. Oh, that does help. Yes, if you're willing to give this video a like, that helps. Shade the Changing Man. Yeah, that's a sort of that's a little bit of a deep pull that's still very, very good. Yes. 7 miles a second. I don't know what that is. I have to admit, I don't know that. Sandman Mystery Theater. Okay. Again, probably a good TV show. Why the Last Man? I wish that continued. You know, that was a victim of the pandemic. Wasn't Transmetropolitan Helix imprint? It might have been. I don't think it was Vertigo. I can't remember. Swamp Thing Green Hell so far is really, really cool. Yo, the Exterminators! Co-created with my friend Tony Moore. Tony is the best. The Exterminators is such a good underrated concept. It's literally about bug hunters and how bugs could easily just destroy society and people that are trying to manipulate it to do just that. Another vote for 100 Bullets. Sandman and Preacher, technically not movies, though. Yeah. House of Secrets would be a good TV show. That's a good anthology horror idea. Since you said DC Black, I want the question. That's fair. Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol could we just had the show, so it's early, but yeah, maybe reboot it. Maybe reboot it. I would love a Judge Dredd show of some sort, but yeah, who knows? That's a separate issue. We'll see. Invisibles, yeah, that would be tough to adapt, I think, but maybe. Punk Rock Jesus. Was that the book with Sean Gordon Murphy? Was that was a Vertigo book? I didn't remember that, but yeah. Doom Patrol is probably the best adaptation around. I haven't read it. I haven't watched it yet. That's cool to hear. Sandman Mystery Theater could be a series, play up the pulp drama aspect. I'd love that. I love crime comics, so yeah. Apparently Transmetro is both Helix and Vertigo. Oh, I don't know. Dr. 13, that is going deep. Phantom Stranger, was there a Phantom Stranger Vertigo comic? I didn't remember that. Seeing a bunch of repeat things. Superman Space Age, sure. 7 Miles a Second was by David Wojnarowicz and James Romberger, published after David's death from AIDS, about his experiences of living with the disease. And that was a Vertigo book? I didn't know that. Unwritten, The Geek. Is it Comic Tropers or Comic Troopers? I like Troopers. You prefer Tropers? I like Comic Troopers. It's close enough. I like that. But thank you for the support either way, Larry. There we go. Animal Man. Animal Man could work as a movie. That would be different because you'd like have a guy that's not necessarily top tier. He's got a family. There's a couple different things there. Goddess, Enigma, We Three, Saucer Country, Sea Guy. I'll put my vote behind the Invisibles. You guys are just listing everything. Now that he's an Oscar winner, maybe they'll keep him around as Robot Man. Well, that would be smart, actually. Dead Man. Yep. All right, I got to catch up. I'm falling way behind. American Century. Space Cabbie. Pretty sure Space Cabbie has not been in a Vertigo book. Pretty sure. I'm going to move on to another piece of news. Yeah, I agree. Whoever first said it, I agree with Andy. We Three is great. I don't know. Is that enough to be an hour and a half? Or is that something more like that you just tell as like a special presentation, as like a 1 hour HBO Max type of thing? I don't know. I don't know if it needs... But anyway, it is a great story. Really good. I'm seeing lots of great suggestions, but I got to keep the show moving so that I can eat on time. Oh, right. Well, we were just talking about Doom Patrol. This is a little related, but this is a little sad, folks. At least for fans of Doom Patrol that know who I'm talking about. How many people out there know and remember Rachel Pollock? Because she was an important writer on Doom Patrol. Acclaimed run. I think a lot of people really like Rachel Pollock's run. I think some people might have it as their favorite. A lot of people will have it as their second favorite behind, say, Grant Morrison or the original or something. But Rachel Pollock was a writer on Doom Patrol. And Neil Gaiman shared this on Mastodon. I'll read it to you. It's sad news. But it's important to remember our creators. Neil writes, "My friend, the brilliant author Rachel Pollock, is coming to the end of her life. She won the Nebula, World Fantasy, and Arthur C. Clarke Awards. She is a world-renowned expert on tarot, and her books on tarot are still regarded as the, I believe he meant, gold standard. She created the first trans superhero in Doom Patrol in 1993. That's Coagula. So that's pretty important. I will miss her very much when she goes. I am writing this at the request of her wife Zoe to let her friends know that the end is soon and to let the obituarists know too. Rachel is trans. Very very important sort of pioneer in that regard. You know, worked for a major comic company and was able to create a trans superhero who is very important to the Doom mythology mythos. So, let's see. Another channel and Dynamite did an auction last year to help raise money for her medical funds. This is sad to hear. Yeah. If you haven't read it, it's a great Doom Patrol run, folks. Great run. She contributed a lot, and maybe that's hopefully one of the ways that we as comics fans can remember her work. And I hope that the trans community will, when she passes, note that she was definitely a pioneer in comics. So yeah. Yeah, not sharing exactly what it is, but yes, ill. And if Neil is saying that her wife asked him to share this, I'm assuming that this is either hospice or hospice level at this point. So that's sad. I won't be surprised if we hear an update soon. We'll see. Yeah, hard to follow up Grant Morrison. She did a great job. Wasn't intimidated by what he did. Did her own weird stuff. If I'm remembering right, she did a lot with who's the character that they added to the show? Alice? Is that? Hold on, I'm so bad at names. Is all. Jane, Crazy Jane. I think Rachel did a lot with her. I'm just double checking my memory. Yeah. Anyway, some good stuff. Some good stuff. Glad to hear you folks saying some nice things. Just wanted to share that, not trying to bring the mood down, but always want to respect our creators. So when there's news like this, I think it is important to acknowledge. Here's, I think, some good news. It was originally sort of bad news, but it's become good news. So Batman Caped Crusader. That's an animated show. Here's some concept art by Bruce Timm. Obviously, the creator, co-creator, super important on the original Batman animated series. Just last year, just a few months ago, HBO Max announced it was not picking up their Batman Caped Crusader animated series. It's going to be worked on by Bruce Timm, Matt Reeves, the guy that just directed the Batman, J.J. Abrams. I know Ed Brubaker was a writer and producer on it. Had some great names and talent associated with it. Like, HBO Max, they own the property. Why would they not want to take this on? I guess they just don't want to do a lot with animation right now. The show itself was still being made, but HBO Max wasn't going to, they're like, yeah, we'll make it, but we won't air it. Weird. Well, fortunately, there's this billionaire out there called Amazon, and so they just ordered 2 seasons to start with. They ordered 2 seasons of the show. I think it looks like it should be pretty good. I did not see the Batman animated short Bruce Timm did years ago. This is sort of its own thing, but yeah, here Larry has some details that are relevant here. It will be more mature and almost what they wanted to do originally. So a little more adult, but still Batman. Yeah, HBO Max lost. I think I agree. I think that this will be a hit, folks. I don't know why they wouldn't do it. I am so glad the show found a home. Me too. Yeah, it's a new continuity, but it's visually going to have some inspiration by what's happened before. So good. Kind of wild. HBO passed on it. Batman is a license to print money. Typically is. A lot of people like HBO. I don't know. Just found out Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams created Felicity. They sure did. So who knows? Maybe we'll be lucky enough to get, who was that actress? that was Felicity. She was just in Cocaine Bear. She was fantastic on The Americans. I'm so bad at names. I'm so bad. Carrie Russell. Carrie Russell. They should get Carrie Russell to play like somebody important, like Catwoman or Talia al Ghul or something. They both know her. They should bring her in. Carrie Russell. Actually, didn't Carrie Russell once voice Wonder Woman for one of those animated movies? I think she did. And I think it was good, if I'm remembering right. I think she did. Yeah. With this and Invincible season 2, I will definitely be renewing my Prime sub. The Boys alone would also get me to renew it at this point. The Boys, Invincible, those are both really good. And Amazon is obviously looking to carve out a little bit more comic book content. They're not always supporting it. They didn't support Paper Girls very much, even though I thought that was quite good. Was it Netflix or Amazon that had Y the Last Man? I legit can't remember now. So that one wasn't supported too much, but that sort of had pandemic problems. So anyway, we'll see. I hope it's good. I personally do have a lot of faith with the talent involved behind the scenes here. Right. Yeah, she was. Right. She was in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Matt Reeves. That's right. I like Carrie Russell. If you guys haven't seen The Americans, that show's great. I think that's like a little underrated. People talk very fondly about Breaking Bad and The Sopranos as these dramas that like had a great run and ended like very, very strong. Just to be clear, I would put The Americans right up there. I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome. I don't know if it's set in the golden age. I don't know that. Oh, Why the Last Man was Hulu and Disney Plus. I don't know why I didn't remember that. FX and Hulu. Okay. Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm glad it survived being canceled by HBO. Didn't know they could ship a DC flagship character to a competitor. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? Like, they own Batman, Warner Brothers Discovery, and they're like, we'll let Amazon have it? I don't understand the business of that, where they're like, we think we can make more money by just selling it to a competitor than we can airing it on our platform. How does that make sense? It doesn't to me. It does not make sense. Yes, Bruce Timm is definitely still involved in this. The Americans was brilliant. Yes. John Cena for Batman? Who knows? There was a thing recently where they tried to get Jensen Ackles for Batman in the CW Gotham Knights show. Now, just to be clear, the show is set, I think, after Batman dies. But Misha Collins stars on Gotham Knights, and he was like the third most important character, actor, screen time wise, on Supernatural. So I think he tried to get Jensen Ackles to play Batman, because Jensen Ackles has said he'd love to play Batman in live action. He's done his voice in a couple movies, animated movies. So they tried to get him, but I think he was busy doing The Boys at the time. Yeah, I agree. Gotham Knights does not look great. Does not look great. The newest Planet of the Apes trilogy is phenomenal. Isn't it so good? 3 different directors, but it really did tell each time a really good story. And I think it works because while it is technically a trilogy, each movie really did function very independently as just a good story. Each one took place in the future, but it was very strong trilogy. That's something underrated too. Anyway. Yes, before he voiced Batman, he did voice Jason Todd in Under the Red Hood. Mm-hmm. Oh, did Matt Reeves do 2 and 3? I thought that they had different directors. I don't remember. Jensen would kill it as Batman. He could. Look, after seeing him in live action as Soldier Boy, yeah, either Marvel or DC should definitely grab him to play a superhero. They should. Jensen Ackles should be in one of the movies. I've been listening to Bridgewater, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Misha Collins is the main character. I like Misha Collins. I do. He's good. Yeah, he's a good actor. I mean, just to be clear, when Misha Collins debuted on the show Supernatural in season like 3 or 4 or something, he was an angel, but they dressed him up and had him act a lot like John Constantine. At least looked like him. At least looked like him. So that was kind of fun to see at the time. I don't think, but they didn't plan for him to like be so popular and last along. Wait, Jonathan Frakes voicing Batman? Is that something he did? I didn't hear that. I keep getting sidetracked, but obviously The Last of Us just ended, and that was like the best streaming show on for the last couple months. The Mandalorian's on now. I love Mando. Nothing bad to say about it. It's really, really cool. It's really cool. But I am surprisingly engaged with Picard season 3. You don't have to see Picard seasons 1 and 2. They're not that great. Picard season 3 is really good Star Trek so far. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. I'm going to move on. Maybe this is more indie than some people follow, but I am a big fan of Daniel Clowes. I'm sure a lot of you at least know his work in Ghost World. That was a great book. Maybe you've seen his books like 8 Ball and stuff. Well, it's been a minute since we've saw something new from him. But Fantagraphics is going to publish his first graphic novel that he's made in 7 years. It's called Monica. I don't know a whole lot about it. They're not revealing everything. They just say that it's going to be a series of short, interconnected narratives that tell the life story of its titular character. And it's going to tell each sort of story is sort of going to be told in a genre that helped make comics popular. Daniel Clowes is a student of the game. I did an episode of Comic Tropes where I talked about his work on the character of Dan Poussey. It's just this brutal takedown of like mainstream comics, and especially like guys like Stan Lee. It's just really rough, but it's kind of funny. It's satirical. He knows comics. He's gonna so we're going to talk about genres like war, romance, horror, crime, supernatural. So each chapter is going to like have a different flair to it. Only $30 for 106 hardcover pages. And I just thought this was interesting. The dimensions of it, 8.25 inches by 11 inches, basically traditional typing paper size here. I don't know. You were reading 8 Ball before you started watching? That's so cool. Very cool news. It is. It is. Yeah, if you haven't read 8 Ball is your favorite comic. Yeah, it's good. He's done all sorts of genres in his comics, but really, really talented guy. Really, really talented. Really good comics. Really, yeah. New Dan Clowes comics are always welcome. Absolutely. His stuff isn't for me. It's mostly the weird homophobia in Ghost World. I guess I could sort of feel that. A little bit of product of the times, but I also think he's just trying to go for certain amounts of authenticity. I don't think he's homophobic. I don't know. I got a new collection at SPX last year. Lloyd Llewellyn is my favorite. Cannot understand Clowes, what I've read, but bought Death Ray to check it out. Death Ray is pretty interesting. Well, thanks for being here, JR. Anyway, I like Dan Clowes, so I wanted to promote that. Oops, all James Gunn Supermans. What do I mean by that? I'll call Sal from Comic Pop a friend. He interviewed Tom King. He's had him on his show many times. And it wasn't really Sal's fault, but I think Tom revealed more than he meant to on this interview. This was 3 days ago on the 10th. And Tom accidentally said that James Gunn, he confirmed that James Gunn is writing and directing Superman, and that he brought on a bunch of experts, including like himself. Sal took it down and privated it, which was the right thing to do. But It was out there. People saw it. So now this news is on sites like, Collider, or I don't know if it's on Bleeding Cool, but it's probably on things like Comic Book Resources. It's on a bunch of different comic book websites because the news got out there. I know Sal's planning on editing it out, but it got out there. So it's something that we all suspected anyway. I don't think that Sal should feel bad about it. He probably doesn't feel bad about it, just to be clear. He probably doesn't. I mean, I don't think that Tom King should feel bad about it. Like it feels like things that we knew, but we didn't. It was not confirmed. It was not confirmed, and it still hasn't been officially confirmed, just to be clear. James Gunn expressed interest in writing and possibly directing it. We were pretty sure that he was writing it because he's been showing like the books that he's been researching. Nothing's been confirmed officially, but the way Tom phrased it, it sounded like it was confirmed. It was an accident that we all already expected. Exactly. So it's like non-news news, it's like somebody blurted it out, something that we all sort of thought the news was going to go that way, but it hadn't been officially confirmed, and it still hasn't, just to be clear, but it sounds like we know. It sounds like we know. Gunn is going to need to stretch himself as a creator for Superman. Maybe. Sal has no role in this whatsoever. Tom King shouldn't be saying something that he doesn't have the authority or approval to say. It was a mistake, but I don't think anybody's in trouble. I really don't, just to be clear. In other news, I'm going to have coffee in the morning. Oh, that is some breaking news. Thank you for sharing, JoJo. Anyway, I think because we all felt like really confident that this was going to happen, that's probably why Tom just felt a little too comfortable and said this stuff. Last piece of news that I have anyway, is that there is a Suicide Squad game. It's been delayed a bunch. It's been delayed again. Not a good look for the game. The game was supposed to come out in May, but they just announced this week that they've delayed that to the end of the year. There are some pundits that think it won't come out until 2024. This is already delayed because back in March of 2022, so like one whole year ago, they delayed it to now, but now it's been delayed again. This is coming from Rocksteady, which is normally a pretty solid game maker. They initially announced this, though, back at the DC Fandom in 2020. So it's really taken its time. I'm not sure that I'm into the game. I don't mind what the graphics look like or anything, and I like the Suicide Squad, but it's playable online only, as in you cannot buy the game and play it offline on your own computer. You can only log into the service. It's basically games as a service, so you have to be connected to the internet. The creators are saying that the delay is just to polish the game, but the fears from various sort of game analysts and game reviewers and stuff, the fear is that it might be a little broken in terms of having too many loot-based systems, like too many different currencies that you have to deal with, which would basically just mean that you were constantly grinding, kind of like the original Destiny game. Good gameplay, great visuals, kind of broken in terms of how it just made you keep repeating different things. Also, Marvel's Avengers just made you grind and grind and grind. So we'll see. That's just the fear. If you want a game delivered on time, do not call Rocksteady. I have no faith in this game from everything that's come out about it. Captain Boomerang has a gun in it. Yes, you would think that Captain Boomerang would be armed instead with a boomerang, but not in this game. Easy skip with the games as a service stuff. Yeah, it's not everybody's favorite model. Live service games are a cancer to the games industry, as well as a massive insult and major detriment to business practices. Okay. Avengers flopping is probably part of the delay. That could be. It might be a very similar situation, but we don't know. It's just speculation. I don't have any real insight, but tell you what, anybody that stayed here and would like a chance to win this Vampirella statue, let's have a giveaway. This is to promote, just to be clear, my Vampirella campaign. Actually, I'm going to do something. Again, otherwise, why even have a show, right? There it is, right? There. I'll point. There it is. If you go to Indiegogo and just look up comic tropes or Vampirella, you're going to find it. I would really appreciate you considering getting a copy of my cover. I'm proud of doing this. It's a big deal. I want it to be successful. So I hope you will consider that. It is only available at that link. It is only available for 8 more days. Yeah, they gave me Dynamite was kind enough to give me a few, but I'm going to have to foot the bill on the shipping. So that's not fun, but that's okay. You know, I'm willing to do it to promote my campaign. I want it to be successful. So let me bring this over here and let's see. Tell you what, I'm going to switch things up by adding this so that you can sort of see what we're talking about here. This is a statue that Dynamite made based on the iconic cover by Jose Gonzalez. Very famous cover, sculpted by a guy named Steve Kiwis. I think this could be fun, sort of celebrating Vampirella's 50th anniversary there. Kind of you to ask, but my shoulder is doing terrible. I need to do more exercises. I've definitely heard it a lot this week, but it is not my biggest health concern. I've had a bad week. Tell you what, I had another window here so that we can do a giveaway. We'll do a giveaway. Let me close that. Yes, Art of Saw, I got your address. I will be mailing you your prize. Thank you for participating. She looks great for 50. Well, hey, you got to read Vampire Husband, I guess, right? We vampires don't age. Hold on, I'm going to add a window here. I'm just doing some behind the scenes fun stuff. Share screen, choose window, giveaway tool. There we go. Oops. Hold on. Choose a... No, let's refresh that. She's a pretty funny person, isn't she? Okay. I'm about to come up with a hashtag. If you want to participate, just type it in once, type it in exactly as you see it, and I'll collect them. Don't type it yet because then it won't get collected, okay? Just wait a minute. I'm thinking of what I want the hashtag to be. I won't capitalize anything. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so there you go. All you have to do if you want to participate is just type in once, hashtag tropes. Our overseas participation's okay. I'll be honest, I probably cannot afford to ship this internationally, I'm afraid. It would just be too expensive. So I would prefer not to. Oh, a super chat. Regarding the JLSS game, the Justice League is taken over by Brainiac and Suicide Squad saves the day. Can't Superman beat Brainiac on his own? Same with the end of Peacemaker. I don't mind the Aquaman fish joke, but Justice League would never show up late. Well, jokes trump logic is, I guess, all I can say. Okay, a bunch of people entering. Great. It's just going to take a minute because there's a bit of a delay on the page that starts gathering them, but good. I'm up to like 47 there. So thank you, folks. I hope one of you wins. I wish I could give one to everybody, but obviously the overall point is to instead sell my cover. Aw, EJ, you didn't have to do that, buddy, but thank you very much. EJ Sue, by the way, just was at the a Transformers convention in LA because, of course, he's drawn so many Transformers comics, and he even had a cosplayer dress up as one of his characters that he created in Transformers. So I thought that was awesome. But thank you, buddy. That's really sweet of you. Oh yeah, I definitely like Chris Ware comics. Wow, that's so nice. EJ is a legend through and through. Very, very true. Very true. All right, let me refresh to see how many entries I've got. 54. Is that everybody? I think everybody's had a chance. So I'm going to do the drawing in just a moment. Let me just make sure everybody did get a chance to do it. Look at everybody thanking EJ. That is nice. That is nice. That will definitely cover a bunch of the shipping. That's so nice. All right. I'm about to do the drawing. Are we ready? I think we're ready. Okay, I'm seeing a couple more tropes come in. I'll just make sure that those get added because there's a bit of a delay. Tropes, because that's what I did in my cover, is I tried to add as many tropes to the cover as possible. So that was fun. Look at that. Do I have all of them? Staying steady. I just look for it to stay steady for like about a minute, and then I know that, like, you know, I'm safe to do the drawing. But I don't want anybody to not get their fair chance. I just have to at some point cut it off and do the drawing no matter what. Yeah, I'm on the rope. You got it. You got it. Some of y'all are on a big delay. Well, some people may have just jumped in or just not been paying close attention or something like that. So that's fair. It happens. Let me take a look. I think I've got them all. What's up with the duck icon? That's StreamYard. I run this through StreamYard. StreamYard has a duck as its mascot. No, there's not a limit. It just enters everybody that put that hashtag in once. So here we go. I think we are good. I'm gonna do it, folks. I'm gonna do the drawing. Good luck. K-Bar. K-Bar. K-Bar is a graduate. Congratulations to K-Bar. K-Bar, got a pretty easy way for you to claim this. Here's what you need to do is just email me. I'm gonna show it on the screen for you. And if you could just email me your mailing address, I will get that sent out in a little while. So there's where to send it. It's just comictropes@gmail.com. Just say, hey, this is K-Bar, mail it here, and I will take care of it. And look at how nice you guys are sending out all those congrats to K-Bar. That's so nice of you. Congrats. Thanks for doing these giveaways. It's very fun. You should do this every week. I'll do one at least next week. That'll be like the last day of the campaign. So, yep, congrats. Woohoo. Look at all these people. That's so nice. That's so nice of you all. Congratulate. Look at you. All right. All right. Look at that. Happy for you. Happy for the support from all of you. You guys are great. You guys are great. I love doing this live show every week. It's part of what keeps me super invested and excited about working on comic book material. Obviously, Comic Tropes didn't come out this last weekend either. I have recorded it. It's a very ambitious episode. It's a very ambitious episode. I'm hoping that it does much better view-wise than a typical episode. It's a little bit of an experiment in that regard. This is like the script was twice as long as a typical script. It's involving a lot more editing than a typical episode. If it does well, maybe I will instead try to do bigger episodes at a slightly slower pace. If it doesn't do well at all, that just means people want shorter episodes weekly. I don't know. It's sort of an experiment in that regard, but it is going to take a little while to get done. I hope to have it up for like my patrons, like maybe midweek, and then for everybody on the weekend. That's my goal. So we'll see. But just letting you know behind the scenes what I'm working on. I'm happy there's going to be another gorilla cover in the world. I'm happy about it too. In Soviet Russia, Vampirella, we knew. Can you spoil the oh hi? I'm not doing well, here's what I'll do. If I do an oh hi, I'm just gonna actually end up putting it over the credits, like where I sometimes put bloopers and fan art and stuff like that, because I had an idea. I didn't get the guests that I wanted to really make it like exciting. So I came up with a different idea for how to start the episode. It's not no high. Speaking of ambition, I'm working on an homage of you holding a dying gorilla body, holding a car. That's a good idea. Good luck. That sounds very ambitious. I'm in Orlando for work and popped into a cool shop, Gods and Monsters. Picked up Cliff Chang's Catwoman Lonely City. Yeah, that's a good one. Sloan Long's Prism Stalker. Very excited for both. You read any Long? No, I haven't read any Leong. Haven't read that. Wow. Thank you, Larry. The Tropes community is definitely awesome. One of the few streams I watch that doesn't need mods. I think my sister might have moderation powers, but I don't think she really needs to use them. Only love in here with the exception of some spam that we can all report and ban. Yeah, and that doesn't happen too often. Mostly YouTube has good filters for catching that stuff themselves, mostly. But yeah, thank you for the support. You guys are great. What do you tell you what? I'm about to wrap it up. But I am curious, aside from the stuff that I have been like showing recently as like what I've been reading, do you have any recommendations for stuff that's currently coming out that you think I or your fellow viewers might be missing out on? Because I rely on recommendations. I really do. I'm definitely curious if there's anything I'm missing out on. I'm very happy with what I'm reading these days. There's a delay, so I'm waiting a moment. This one I definitely don't know. Q Hayashida's Die Dark. Gotham City Year One. I've heard good things about that. I should probably look into it. Maybe when it gets collected. Have you heard of OM by Andy Barron? I haven't. Pink Lemonade. I am reading World's Finest. I am reading that one. Spy Superb by Matt Kint is off to a good start. Okay, encouraging to hear. Red Room, yeah. No, I read Red Room every time that it's come out. I've shared it on this show. I definitely read Red Room. Canary, is that the one with Dan Panosian's art? I'll definitely get that when Dark Horse publishes it. I definitely will. If you like art and art stories, Art Burt from Image. Fair enough. I do like stuff like that. How about Dan to Dan? I don't know Dan to Dan. I just got a Q Hayashida's variant cover. Nice. Okay, that's related. Not technically still coming out, but the Pokemon manga is awesome. Okay. Art Brute by the Ice Cream Man team. Okay. I do like Ice Cream Man. Yes, I've definitely read Ice Cream Man. I definitely have. Not all of it. I do need to finish it, but I have read like the first 3 trades. It's weird. You've read that weird Doctor Strange that came out recently. Okay, I didn't read that either. Not reading tons of superhero stuff. It has to be really exceptional. Scarf, free newspaper anthology comic. My friends and I used to do one like that. We used to put out a free anthology comic newspaper every month. It was great. The Flash. Well, people are saying that the writer, Jeremy Adams, is doing a good job. Hospital drama show? Huh. Weird Work by Shaky Kane. Okay, yeah, Shaky Kane's cool. Today is Al Jaffe's 102nd birthday. I knew he was up there. I didn't know that today was his birthday. Al Jaffe. Wow. Artist that you probably know if you ever read Mad Magazine. Did the fold-ins. You know, you'd like read something and then you'd fold the art in and it like had like the reveal of like a joke or a pun. Santos Sisters. Yep, I'm aware of that. That's cool. You're not reading Battle Chasers yet. It hasn't come out yet. Katie Shelley's Haven. Dan Dadan is great. Aliens versus... Oh! I think I have read that manga. Excuse me. Yeah, there's a longer title for it, right? I have read it. Been loving your weekly spinner rack reviews. A lot of stuff that I can't stay current with, but like hearing about. Good. The new Darkwing Duck is cool so far. Yeah, it's cool that Dynamite is doing so many Disney things. They're doing Scar and Maleficent. I think they should really do a bunch of the villain stuff. I think that's a good idea. Picked up Heavenly Delusion manga. I'll keep that one in mind. I don't know it. Argent of World, a fun future sci-fi story with interesting art. Not too heavy a read, more light and fun. I could use more like that. Dan the Dan is a beautifully drawn manga about the paranormal. Maybe I haven't read it then. I don't know. Jerry Duggan Iron Man? Okay. I like Jerry. I thought the recent Peter Parker and Miles Morales Spider-Man Double Trouble by Gurihiru was surprisingly fun. I don't know Lovesick. I don't know that one. Dan the Dan is from a former assistant of the Chainsaw Man mangaka. Hell's Paradise is another good manga from another former assistant. Oh, okay. Then I don't think I have read Dan the Dan. The new Star Trek is good. Yes, I've heard good things. IDW. There we go. Hey, EJ deserves a plug, doesn't he, folks? He gave me that super generous super chat to mail out like the prize to one of you. EJ does a online comic for Marvel called Test Kitchen, about like a food truck vendor and her adventures in Manhattan with within the world of Marvel superheroes. But yes, Test Kitchen, folks, looks gorgeous. Archie versus the World came out recently. Fist of the North Star, Mad Max parody with Archie characters. Oh, that's funny. I do like Fist of North Star. Drifting Classroom by Umez. Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy. Like Mad Magazine. Oh, I missed something, I guess. 102. High five, Al Jaffe. I have to imagine he's got to be, like, in terms of artists who've worked on what you'd call comic books, I can't think of anyone that got that old. Although, let's give respect. Ramona Fradon is in her 90s, and she's still putting out comic covers. She just did a variant for Danger Street like last month. I would love a new Ramona Fradon cover. Love the Spy stuff. Nice. All right. I love Street Angel. Yes, Street Angel's badass. Jim Rugg, great comic. Read that years and years ago before he ever had a YouTube channel. Love it. All right, I gotta get going. This is so many, but I gotta get going. Tales of Demons and Gods. All right. Yes, I've read Fables, but I realized that it came back, and I did not pick up the sort of like continuation. Dan to Dan is fantastic. Whoever mentioned it. Okay, that's a lot of people mentioning it to me. Got it. I've seen it on Marvel Unlimited. I'll check out Test Kitchen. Vampirella. Yes, my Vampirella, right? Favorite EC artist? Oh, that's hard. Maybe Wally Wood, but I'm probably gonna have a different opinion on a different day. All right, I'm gonna take off, folks. I'm gonna take off. Thank you so much for being here. Give away stuff from my room. If it didn't cost to ship, I would, just to get rid of stuff. I would love to just give away comics and toys and stuff. I want to downsize my life, but yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'll be back next week with more, and before you see me live next time, you should see my next Comic Tropes episode, which is going to be a big one. And I'll just end, please consider going to Indiegogo and checking out my Vampirella cover. That would mean a lot to me. I really want this to be a success. I need your help to do that. Thank you so much for being here. Till I see you next time, keep reading comics. Yeah, you get a double salute.